Hey guys, welcome back. If you're watching on YouTube, we have a treat for you today. We are interviewing Drew Mazurek, and he's on fire about Luna, and for good reason. When you see this interview, you're going to see some of the really cool stuff. Now, just a couple of caveats here. This was recorded on a live stream for my MixCoach members, and they were asking some questions. The downside is that the resolution of his screen when he shows it, you can't tell a lot of detail, but you get the gist of it. Luna is a really good DAW, and I'm excited about upgrading the old Silverface Apollo and giving it a go. By the time you see this, Luna will have announced probably a new update, and you can check all that out at uadforum.com. Don't forget that I've got some free training at mixcoach.com/workshop. It's a mixing workshop where I share 5 of my favorite mixing tips that are designed for you to rethink mixing and kind of get your head in the game a little bit more. It's mixing is a lot more heady than people think it is. It's exhausting sometimes if you don't have kind of some mental brain hacks to get you in there. And that's what we're going to do on this workshop. mixcoach.com/workshop. Okay, now let's go to Drew. Thanks, Drew, for hanging out with us today. We're going to be talking about Luna. I've heard a lot about it. I'm an Apollo Duo 2 user from back. It's a vintage Apollo.
The silver face, yeah.
Silver face.
Yeah.
So, and I've had a lot of people that I really trust tell me that Luna is really cool. It's in its early stages.
Yep.
And so I just really wanted to find out a little bit more about Luna. I wanted to just kind of get to know you a little bit more. I know you're in development at UA, and I know that you're a mastering engineer and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, Why don't you just want to, I guess, do the longer form of introduction? Let me know.
Yeah, sure. So just to be clear, I'm not technically part of development at UA. I'm in the marketing department. So my job is to take my decades of experience as an audio engineer and to use that to help people use our products. Since our focus is so much towards sort of the vintage, like our MO right from the top down is we're really interested in the old school equipment, the old school workflows, right? The things that made records what they used to be, like kind of to us, and to try and pull some of those lessons and pull some of that workflow and sonics into the modern era. So while I'm part of marketing and that's my job, I try and stick my beak into the development side of things wherever I can, and like try and shape things and like give those guys my 2 cents. But we have such a great team. The team that's been behind Luna, is our super experienced developers, and they know what they're doing, and they've got some really great things up their sleeves, as we're going to be seeing very soon. We're recording this on the 6th of May, and in 5 days we have a release. So there's going to be some new stuff happening here in 5 days that I can't speak about now, but maybe by the time you're watching this, it's already happened.
Awesome.
But yes, yeah. So it's cool stuff.
So I was going to say, you're the guy that they give it to and you try to break it.
Yeah. We try and break it. We try and give them feedback on like, hey, this is, as an engineer, this is working. This is not working. This would be cool if you could do that. This would be cool if you could do that. So yeah, we're doing that kind of stuff. I mean, of course we have internal testers and a whole QA department that really tries to break it and really logs those bugs. But myself and Ben Lindell and Matt Peterson, are all in the marketing department, and we're showing people how to use Luna every week. Every Monday we do a live stream, and we're really trying to spread the knowledge and show people how to use this. And then we wind up giving our feedback back to the developers as well. So
right,
yeah.
Well, so Luna, I mean, I feel like I'm asking dumb questions, but for people who may not know, Luna is basically a UA's foray into the DAW world.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You basically you've got the corner on like really killer plugins.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of getting into the DAW thing.
Yeah, it was kind of it was the other piece of the puzzle that we were missing. But the whole Apollo platform launched in 2012, 2012ish with the original silver, like that you've got, Kevin. And and the focus there back then, the focus was input latency as well as the quality of plugins. So the original Apollo, what it did was it brought next level plugins, right? Our development team has been developing the top tier plugins for a couple decades now. And so when the Apollo came on, it took our already cool plugins and allowed you to use them in real time, right? This has always been a problem with DAWs is you've got buffers and you're running through the CPU and you've got latency issues. And if you put your buffer up too high, then it doesn't feel right in the headphones and all that jazz. So the Apollo solved that on the input side. So we had great plugins that you could use in real time. You could either track through them or you could just monitor through them, your choice, but you were still using a third party DAW. And this was great and it worked great for many years and lots of people made lots of great music and great records with it. But the problem, we always felt a little bit stifled because we just couldn't get into the DAW. We couldn't handle the record side of things, right? So years ago, we're probably talking 6 7 years ago, Luna, the concept of Luna was formed, and not that long after the Apollo was released, where the team was like, okay, let's think about what would it be if we wanted to do a DAW. And so what Luna it's the record side of things and the mix side of things. And it's also a shift for us because Luna isn't as a native process, right? Luna is it's a native app, and Luna and its extensions and its instruments are native. They're running on your CPU, right? But it's still, the front end is still DSP because DSP is still king when it comes to low latency inputs, right? So if you want to record enable a track, right, and you want to play through a guitar sim or you want to track that vocal through a beautiful preamp or a beautiful compressor, it's best for that process to be in the DSP. So that's really what Luna is. It's like it's a native DAW, we'll just call it a DAW. I mean, we call it a recording system because it really does only work with a Thunderbolt Apollos, so you got to have a Thunderbolt Apollo. So if you got a silver and you want it and you're on the fence, put that, if you put a Thunderbolt card into an Apollo from 2012, you have a Thunderbolt Apollo and it will run Luna, which is great. I mean, to think that something that's, 9 or 10 years old can still run this software is really cool. So we've got this native app that is harnessing your CPU. And then what we've also done is we have these extensions, what we call Luna extensions and Luna instruments. These are exclusive to the Luna platform, and they are handled by your CPU. So we're understanding that, hey, people got these powerful computers. Let's go ahead and put them to work, right? We'll put them to work with instruments and extensions. And of course, all of your third-party audio units plugins are supported in Luna. So right out of the gate, you've got your whole AU library. Plus, you can have these extensions. And Luna comes with some great free stuff. Luna itself is free. If you have a Thunderbolt Apollo and you're running the Mac OS, it's a free download. It comes with an oxide tape extension. So right out of the gate on day one, you have free tape across every channel, which is really cool. Because that's part of our mission, right? Is to bring back that workflow of like, hey, tape on every channel. You don't have to think about it. You don't have a bunch of different plugin windows open. It's all integrated into the mixer. You can put it on all tracks. You can put it on one track. Super fast, super intuitive, and the instant satisfying sound of tape. It also comes with Shape, which is a Shape is a 10 plus gigabyte, record ready set of sounds. We're talking acoustic drums that we sampled in Ocean Way Studios, right? Buried in there, right? A lot of people don't even take the time to go through Shape. It's like if you've dealt with Shape, man, do yourself a favor and go through all of that. Lots of great sounds that comes for free. So you get Oxide for free, you get Shape for free, you get a MIDI effects arpeggiator for free. Lots of cool stuff right out of the gate. Our goal is when you buy an Apollo, we want you to go home on that day and instantly have DSP plugins available in the form of the analog classic stuff, and then also have this free DAW to work on that has lots of cool stuff to go as well. So yeah, let me pause there in case any questions came in or if
Well, I honestly, you're educating me for sure because I didn't realize that it came with tape, and I'm from the old school. I don't know how long you've been recording or not, but
too many years.
I started in '91, and my first tape machine was an Studer A80 Mark II.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I also had the 2-track machine too,
Yeah.
and an analog console, and you had to worry about noise, and it was a budget record company, so we would reuse reels of tape.
Yeah,
And
sure.
we would do 15 ips so that we could get everything on there. So
30 minutes.
it was
yeah.
you always had to worry about tape hiss.
Yeah.
Is that anything you have to worry about with Oxide, or do you have all the benefits of?
Yeah, it's switchable, like I'm pretty sure with Oxide. Gosh, that's a good question. Like I know with Studer, you can turn it off, right? So you have the ability to turn off the tape noise. And it's funny, I don't maybe Oxide has it off by default. I honestly don't use Oxide that much. Just because I have Studer and I like the tweakability of Studer. Oxide's a bit of is preset based. And therefore you just kind of pick a preset and you go with it. But
Hmm.
Studer, you can definitely turn the noise on and off. But yeah, so yeah, that's the thing. We're all about that. We love the old stuff, right? That our MO
Hmm.
is to digitally preserve these processors, but without the hassle, right? You everybody loves a UA 175B or a UA 176. These are tube limiters from 1960 and 1963. They're very rare. We didn't make that many of them. And even if you did have one, you got to make sure it's got good tubes in it. And you got to make sure all that stuff is. Um, so this is, we're preserving that, right? The plugin captures all of that tone and characteristic and behavior, but in a processor that, will never fall out of spec, never need to be retubed and so forth. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
Well, that's really cool. Okay, I have a quick question, and again, this may be all over the internet, but this is kind of to educate me and the guys who may not know
yeah,
that
sure.
much about it. So, Luna will connect with an S1 or most any control surface, or no?
Well, right now, Luna in its current state does not have any control surface support yet, but we announced in January our plans that MCU, Mackie Control Universal, MCU support is coming soon to Luna. You have a lot of choices, right? You've got Yukon, you've got Huey, you've got MCU. We could have done something proprietary, but we chose to start with MCU because it's a no-brainer. It's the most ubiquitous control protocol out there.
Right.
More devices use MCU than anything, so it stood to reason that we would start there. So that's coming sometime this year. It's in development. And yeah, nothing further to say other than that. But we know how
Hmm.
important that is. Control surface support, super important to people. Side chaining, super important to people. Those two might even be the top two requests. Both of them are in the works, and lots of work is going on. Luna is young. Luna's just now a year old, just over a year old, and we have big plans for it. And our goal is to whatever other dolls do, Luna will do. It's simply a matter of development time. Think about how long it took any other doll to get any feature. Some features took 2 years, 4 years, 8 years.
Hmm.
And that's just development time. So we're doing it slow, we're doing it right, and more importantly, we're focused on the sonics, right? Like this is one of the differences with Luna is we're not in a features race. It's not about features. Like what we want is we want to create a recording platform that actually helps you, like integrated tape. We have summing, right? We have console summing that's built into the mixer. These are optional paid items, but if when you get on Luna, you'll quickly realize that we have Neve summing, we have API summing, and so the concept here is not to get into a features race, but instead let's create an app that's going to help you make better music, right? Like most other DAWs, they're pure function and they do a lot, and you can do a lot with them, and that's great. But we're taking a slightly different approach, and we're saying, hey, maybe let's make it sound really great. Let's put tape on every channel. Let's use analog summing features that, guess what? They'll make you have to EQ less. They will make you have to compress less. This is kind of an approach that was lost. Kevin, you coming from tape machines and
Yeah.
consoles, the gear contributed to the sound, right? In the old days, you would go to the studio because of the console it had, because of the tape machine it had. Rumba Recorders has an amazing A800. You got to mix there. Oh, the Neve at whatever Henson is sweet. You know what I mean? Like these kinds of
Hmm.
things. Like you would go to the studio for the gear. So we're trying to make that. We're trying to make Luna be that. Luna is
Yeah.
the doll you go to for sound. You know what I mean? That's kind of the
Right.
approach.
Yeah. One thing I was just teaching about earlier this week is I remember um, when when you mixed analog. Of course, I mixed to DAT. That's kind of my first. That was when we first started going digital. But
Yeah.
I almost always mixed to a quarter inch 2-track tape. And one of the things I noticed is that pound it in your head all the time. Just make sure those needles are around zero. You got the
Yeah.
tape machine set up right. It's playing back good. Get your needles up to zero, and it'll be good. You didn't have to worry about RMS and peak and all that kind of stuff because I
Yeah.
couldn't see peaks anyway unless the light came on, and then it was
Yeah.
like maybe I'll watch that, but you
Yeah.
didn't redo anything because a peak light came on.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I've noticed that workflow has changed a lot because now you look at digital meters and you have to almost learn to read them again. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that Luna, it sounds like Luna's going to jump in there and kind of change not only the change the workflow of mixing
Yeah.
and make it to where it's not so hard to get K12 or K14 because it's kind of built into the structure of it.
Yeah, well, you'd feel right at home, Kevin, because those tape simulators that I even Oxide, the free one, and Studer as well, and we also have the ATR 102 as an extension inside of Luna. All of these have VU meters. The summing plugins have VU meters. So Luna, when you're in another DAW and you're looking at nothing but peak meters, peak meters, peak meters, that that incentivizes you to push and push and push. Whereas if you had a VU meter to look at, you would back off. You would back off. So Luna's kind of bringing that back, where
Hmm.
it promotes good level practices. So I think if you're used to that workflow, you'd feel
Yeah.
right at home. With all those VU meters.
It's funny. A friend of mine just tracked some stuff, and I played bass on it. And then I noticed that he gave me a song to mix today, and there was a couple of tracks that were just like slammed.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing the Pro Tools session, and nothing really was apparent that
Yeah.
that was bad. And I just couldn't help but think if that would have been in the analog days, or hopefully in the future here with the
Yeah.
Luna,
Yeah.
that when you see the meters kind of bent over like that, you,
Yeah.
you go, there's a alarm that goes off in an engineer's head that says,
Yep.
"What's going on here? What do I need to do to fix that?"
Yeah.
So this may be something really cool. I'm really looking forward to diving in. We've
Yeah.
got a couple questions already.
Sure.
Um, One is from Dan Mikesell. He says, "Can you talk about Luna's automation features and how they might compare for us Pro Tools guys?"
Yeah. So you want me to go ahead and share screen? Maybe I could
Yeah,
start. Yeah. Let me
yeah, let's
do
do that.
that. I'm gonna hit share screen, and I'm gonna want to drag that over to there. All right, cool. So let's take a look at Luna. So on the automation front, right now Luna has all of the basics that you would expect, right? So well, first of all, let me start in the mix window, and you can see that above the pan knob, we have we have the basics here. We have of course off. We have read, touch, latch, and trim. So if you're a Pro Tools user, this will feel right at home. The only thing that you're missing is, of course, write mode, which hopefully if you're a Pro Tools user, you're not using write mode. Write
Who
mode,
uses
yeah,
write mode
yeah,
anyway?
yeah. Write mode made sense in the 90s, right? But write mode's too dangerous. So we didn't put it in, right? This is one of the beauties of kind of starting from scratch.
Okay.
So we have all the basics, we even have a trim mode, right? So if you're used to Pro Tools' trim mode where the faders, turn gold and go to unity gain that allow you to trim things, then you'll feel right at home. So on the real-time automation side, we've got everything you need right there with the various real-time modes. And of course, once MCU support ships, that'll become even more useful to get your hands dirty and start grabbing faders.
Mhm.
On the offline side, here I am in Luna's timeline, and I've got the kick drum track here, and it's similar to Pro Tools in that you have a view menu. So right now I'm viewing clips, right? If I click on that, then it'll open up a browser, and in this browser, it shows me all of the various uh, parameters that are available to me. I can search for them. So like if I'm just interested in mute, right, I can just type mute. If I want to collapse all of them, I can option click, which will close them down. And here you can see I've got my output, I've got my utility row, I have my tape extension, I have my EQ, and in this case I have a curve bender on here as well as a distressor. Um, so so I can simply come into here, and if I want to adjust the volume, I can click on that. We also have a familiar Pro Tools shortcut, which is the dash / underscore button up here, which will
Mhm.
toggle you between waveform or clips and volume. If I hold option, it'll do it to all of them. So,
Mm-hmm.
very, very Pro Tools like. And it, you've got all the basics, right? You have the ability to just simply click and drag to create an area. And then we have a really smart cursor. Luna uses the smart tool. It's it's kind of like Pro Tools' smart tool, but on all the time. And except it's kind of even smarter because you'll notice that look, it turns into the trimmer when you get around the line.
Yeah.
So it's
That.
really handy in that regard.
Yeah.
All the basic stuff there. And yeah, so you have both real time stuff that's using the modes, but then also the offline or graphical stuff utilizing a similar sort of automation playlist structure that you might be used to already.
Is there any clip gain?
There is, yeah. So Luna has a clip based gain. So for example, when I'm looking at a track right here, you can see that this track up here at the top, I see the track name, and then
Mm-hmm.
I have a little fader, and when I hover over
Oh,
it, I can double click and it'll open up, or I can simply click and drag, and
mm-hmm.
it will do its thing. We also have
Nice.
clip pitch, right? So if I double click, I can now adjust the pitch of a clip.
What?
So yeah, so
That's really cool.
yeah, so Luna has really great warping algorithms and sort of that are chosen per track. We've got 5 different algorithms to choose from, including 2 that we developed in house: Luna Razorblade, which is good for drums, and then Luna Polyphonic, and then some other ones that we've licensed, some nice industry standard algorithms there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Okay, that's really cool. Here's a newbie question too. Let's just say you wanted to trigger the drums. Could you use external trigger stuff like Slate, or
Yeah,
is it
absolutely. Yep. In fact,
so?
am
Okay,
I using it in this session? I'm not using it in this session, but yeah, any third party or any audio units third party plugin. Um,
audio units.
yeah,
Got it.
audio
Okay.
units. Yep. Yeah, any audio units, which is basically, I mean, pretty much everything. I mean, I've yet to really find something that's not available in audio units. Um,
That's cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that looks really nice, man. See, so we talked about automation. Talk about the editing, a little bit editing, like crossfades and nudging stuff around, like
Yeah, so you've
um,
got actually so nudging is super close is not in Luna just yet, but it's super close. So I can't show you that because I'm on the release build, but I can tell you that that's pretty far along and coming super soon.
okay.
Otherwise, Luna uses we have groups. So for example, I have a drum group. So when the drum group is active, anything I do to one track will do to all. So
Mm-hmm.
and since we have the smart cursor, right? Basically, where depending on where you are in the track will determine what you're doing, right? So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, here I'm the selector tool when I'm in the middle of the clip, but if I go up or down, I'll turn into basically the grabber, right? The ability to just grab that.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm near the edge of a clip and I go to the top, it'll turn into a fade in tool, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. And if I'm at the bottom left hand corner, I'm using a trim tool there. Um, if you're a Pro Tools user, then you're going to be used to some of the keyboard shortcuts. For example, A and S, right? Just like in Pro Tools, is trim to start. So if I hit the A
Mm-hmm.
key, it trims to the start of my cursor. If I hit the S key, it trims to the other side. Um, and then also right alongside it, D, F, and G, right? D, F, and G. D is fade in. Uh, F is crossfade, which doesn't apply because I don't have a selection made it. And then G will fade to the end. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so super fast smart tool cursor, multi-tool cursor, and then a lot of familiar keyboard shortcuts for doing editing and so forth. By the way, R and T, right? If you're used to R and T as your zoom in and zoom out, Luna has that as well. So you'll notice I'm actually on a Pro Tools keyboard, and the vast majority of things work. Fast forward, rewind, the record key, so forth and so on. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's
So
cool.
yeah,
Well, so about the shortcut thing, um, so are you kind of locked into what UA has kind of established? I know that it sounds like they're kind of going for the industry standard sort of Pro Tools sort of thing,
yeah,
but can you get in and change shortcuts, or do you
yeah.
have to do that through the?
Yeah, not yet.
operating system?
That's the kind of thing where, customizable shortcuts is definitely one of those things that like is something we would look at maybe in further development. The other thing
Hmm.
to notice about Luna, the other thing to mention about Luna is that there is uh, we have a built-in feedback mechanism. So in the upper right-hand corner, if you click the feedback button, then you are shown. So right up here, we click that button, and far all the way in the upper right-hand corner, uh,
Hmm.
it brings up a window that allows you to type in either a bug or feedback or just a comment that goes straight to our development team. So our user base is driving Luna's development. There were several things that we didn't think people needed so much, like for example, MP3 support. We thought nobody's using MP3s anymore. Even Fraunhofer Institute has done away with MP3s, but people want them, so we put it in there. Reverse audio, right in the right-click menu, the ability to reverse your audio clips. Who knew that was so important? People inundated us with requests for that. We got it in early since it's a relatively simple feature, so we got that done. So yeah, stuff like customizable keyboards. The interesting thing about that is we're still adding features, so therefore we're still adding keyboard shortcuts. So it's probably a little bit premature to start allowing for that to be customized when we're still in the process of developing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that's
but
cool.
we'll get there, I'm
Uh,
sure.
Daniel Maxwell is with me. I think the clip pitch is a game changer. I love that.
Yeah.
And he had one follow up question. Is
Mhm.
there a coalesce type feature to merge trim automation yet?
Yeah, you know what? It's automatic. It's just, what we've done is when you put something in trim mode. So, for example, if I do let's put it in let's put it in let's put it in touch. We'll hit play, and actually, let me just do it where there's no audio. And I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to make a move, and you'll see that I wrote the automation. If I put myself into trim mode, and trim can be applied to touch and to latch, and actually trim can be applied to read. So you have read trim just like you do in Pro Tools. So it gives you a global trim of your automation, which is nice when you're coming down the home stretch and your vocals are all automated, but you want it to be 1 dB louder. Throw it in trim, push it up a dB, done. It'll play back a dB louder. So here you can see that we have auto coalesce. So I'm going to hit play. I'm going to make the adjustments, and when I hit stop, it automatically coalesced. So I went from that to that, right? Just added in that trim automation there. So really quick, intuitive. We went back. When you're doing stuff from scratch, you can actually look at a feature and you can say, you know what? I don't need all of this like noise around it, right? Let me just hone in on the workflow that the vast majority of people want, and let's start there and let's focus on that. So that's an example of that trim automation. Let's just auto coalesce it after each pass. And then, if users want more granularity there, maybe, we can add that down the road.
Yeah. Let's see. Larry Berger had a
Hey, Larry, what's
question.
up?
Can UAD plugins run low latency to track though?
Yeah,
Track through.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So the whole idea behind Luna, one of its core principles, and this is kind of the foundation of everything. I mentioned it at the beginning of the stream, where Luna itself is a native environment. However, all of your UAD2 plugins still operate in this low latency environment, and furthermore, they're used for when you record enable a track. So, for example, if I record enable this first track, track one, you'll notice that Luna instantly builds me a low latency path in the DSP of my Apollo and feeds it to my headphones and to the monitors and to the cues at very low latency, while allowing me to process plugins. So I can, if I want to put an 1176 on it, here it is. It's now, and what's cool about this is if you're used to UAD and you're used to using console and you're familiar with the idea of record versus monitor, right? If you put a plugin and had it set to record, it would print that way. Or you could set it to monitor and it wouldn't print this way. Well, Luna has that as well, but it's much more consolidated and it's right here. So for example, on this kick drum track that I have, I've record enabled the kick drum track, and you'll notice that this curve bender and this distressor, they are in Luna's inserts, and therefore these are monitored only. Whereas the unison slot, anything put in the unison slot will always commit, and anything that you put into the record effects, in this case the 1176, that will also commit. So it's really easy and really intuitive and straightforward to figure out, oh, okay, anything in the input section, right? Here's my input section. Anything up here is going to commit. So this is the old school input path, right? You're on the
Hmm.
console, you've got the mic pre, you've got your EQ, you can choose, do I want it to commit it or do I just want to monitor with it? We've got that workflow here and it's super fast, super intuitive, visually unambiguous, right? It's obvious what you're doing and what's going to go where. So, and that's all possible because of the UAD stuff. Because it's DSP based, then yeah, that's what makes this all possible
Wow.
because it keeps the CPU out of the equation.
So, so if I'm sitting here with an older Apollo and I do decide to put like a Thunderbolt card in it, so that
Mm-hmm.
we can kind of move forward and use Luna, um, I guess we can just stack the newer cards or the newer Apollos as inputs and outputs
Yeah.
with this old thing. So it's like it doesn't get outdated. I don't guess as long
Yeah.
from this generation on. I
Yeah,
guess, right?
in fact when you put a Thunderbolt card into an original Apollo, it becomes a Thunderbolt Apollo. There's very little difference between it and one of the newer ones. Um, we've recently reduced the price of those Thunderbolt cards down to 199, so it's never been easier to sort of get those older Apollos up to Thunderbolt spec. You get when you come up to the Thunderbolt spec, you get to use Luna, but you also get the IO matrix, the configurable IO matrix, which you don't have with FireWire or USB. Only the Thunderbolt Apollos have that. This is
Mhm.
super handy for, um, configuring your session. You'll notice I have a lot of customization happening here with mine. I've got my, rather than input one, input two, input three, I've got them labeled as mic 1 through 18, which is, I have 18 unison preamps here between two X8Ps and a twin. And then I also have down here, I have slots for my Burl summing return, my two API 512s, my Dayking 52270s, and then my GTQ uh, Aurora Audio GTQ2 left and right. So super, I have a large 5 Apollos here plus a satellite and an Octo card, or 4 Apollos plus a satellite. So it's a big system, lots of IO, and it's all super customizable. So yeah, coming up to a Thunderbolt device gets you that as well, which is great.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So basically, I just kind of got like a vision of being able to actually run a recording session without having to worry about delay compensation at all.
Yeah, Luna's got a
Oh my God.
complete, beautiful internal, completely seamless delay compensation. You never have to worry about anything. I mean, you just work, right? You just do it. It's like that. The whole idea of this is to just make this all seamless, right? And to keep things separated. For example, sends versus queues, right? In most DAW workflows, you're either working with some third-party app like we used to with console, and then also the sends in your DAW. Well, with Luna, you've got your effects sends right in their own dedicated area that is completely separate from the cues, right? So there's no commingling between your effects sends and your cue sends. It's all built in. And the cues are all on the DSP. So it's beautiful low latency paths here. You can bring these up in separate windows. You can choose to look at them as knobs or you can look at them as faders. So when I'm tracking bands, I'll bring up all my cues as faders. And then it's like, boom, here's my mix on the big faders. That's what I'm hearing in the control room. And then right in front of me visually, and so I can just sort of see all of my cue mixes. So if my vocals, let's say my lead vocals over here in red, and the guitar player is on Q2 and he needs more vocal, it's boom, it's right there, it's under my fingertips.
Mhm.
Super fast, super easy, and all integrated, very intuitive.
Is there a way to copy your mix faders up to a
Yeah, yeah. So if you right click on a fader, if you right click on any fader cap, it'll say copy mix to Q1, 2, 3, 4. So you can do it right there. Yeah, you can just go like that, and
that's
there they go up there. Yeah,
that's impressive, man.
yeah.
Um, let's see. Let's see. Rolfwire is a user, and he's an advocate of Luna. He's kind of burned the ships, I think, and he's all in with Luna. So he
Hmm.
says it's really elegant.
Yeah,
I
great.
think he's
Yeah.
worked for it too.
Yeah,
Uh,
the user base is growing, man. We've only been out a year. We're doing releases. We've done I want to say 17 releases we've done 17 releases in just over a year. So
Mm.
we're using this very agile model, trying to release every 3 to 4 weeks, combination of bug fixes, new features. Yeah, it's super fun for me. It's reinvigorated uh, my desire to mix. Like Luna's mixer in particular. Like I love looking at Luna's mixer. It's beautiful. It scales great to big monitors. And it's just super visual, nice visual to be able to see all of your plugins
Hmm.
in their order, drag them around, copy them, all the stuff you'd expect to do, and all these VU meters. The tape stuff is really intuitive, whereby the meter in the tape slot you have this saturation knob. We have this single button. It's basically a reciprocal gain that allows you to take your track and drive it into the tape sim. And while doing so, the meter will react to that. And so you can, at a glance,
Yeah,
know exactly how hard you're hitting the tape and all that jazz. It's
that's
super
cool.
nice. Yeah.
And maybe I've missed this, but I wish UA would do that with 1176s.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you know what? You do kind of have that. We do kind of have that in the sense of the 1176 now. The new version of the 1176 has and I don't know if I can zoom. Do you see it when I zoom, Kevin?
yeah, I do.
You
I
do.
do.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Keep zooming.
So yeah, see, like, is that better? So
That's
making
great.
it
That's
nice and
great,
large like
man.
that. So yeah, so here's the 1176. It's for those of you that maybe haven't updated. If you haven't updated your UAD in a while, we did this. I can't remember exactly when, but we did a little refresh of the 1176, and we added three things primarily. Well, we did a new GUI, a new Retina graphic, so you can see how pretty and how clear and crisp this is on a screen. But we also added let me start backwards and I'll get to the answer. So we start right underneath of the release knob. There's this little, and a lot of people might have slept on this. We did some streams on it, but right underneath of the release knob, there's this little line, right? That's kind of it's basically it's a tilt EQ in the sidechain circuit in order to it's basically a high pass, a sidechain filter.
Hmm.
But it's not simply it's not simply uh, a high pass in the sidechain. It's a tilt circuit, so it simultaneously makes it less less susceptible to grabbing your low end, and simultaneously more susceptible to grab the top end. So it's really great for like drum loops where you want to leave the kick alone, but grab some of the higher frequencies.
Hmm.
That's super cool. You can click on that. And then we also added a mix knob, right? So we've got right here in between the input and the output. If I click on the plus and minus sign, I can increment through that all the way from, obviously 0 up through 100%. If I click on the word mix, it'll go straight to 50/50. So super easy
Hmm.
parallel compression. You can, of course, also click and drag, and you can see there I'm able to, move it up and down however I like. And then to get back to your question, Kevin, we also added this HR screw, the headroom screw. And essentially what this is a reciprocal volume control. We've been adding this
Hmm.
to a lot of stuff. We've added it to the Distressor, we've added it to the Fairchild, API 2500, a bunch of other ones. And essentially what this is let's say you've got your knobs in a nice comfortable spot and you just want to do a little less compression. You can come to the HR screw and drop it down a notch. And essentially what it does is turn down the input, turn up the output, thereby allowing you, without changing any of your settings, to basically turn down the input to the model and hit it less hard. And then you can also
Hmm.
do the reverse. You can drive it up and push further in. So what it does is it allows you to have the knobs in the positions that you like while still getting the effect that you want. So check that out.
Yeah.
It's kind of that same thing.
So you can crank the knobs without scaring anybody. Is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
pretty much. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hey, yeah,
Exactly.
I wouldn't even mind the visual the representation of actually turning it up and down. But hey, let's see. Daniel wants to know, can you talk a little bit about how Luna is handling delay compensation?
You know, it just does. Like it's simple. It's literally as simple as that. Like it's automatic. There's no settings. And right now it's just plug-in delay compensation. So we don't have any delay compensated hardware inserts just yet. We know how important that is to people, and we're working on it. So right now, Luna just automatically, without you having to do a thing, just compensates for all of your UAD, DSP, as well as audio units, plugins, sends, returns, buses, It's just got some smarts, some smarts in the background that just looks at your routing and handles it for you. So there's really nothing for you to, configure or worry about.
That's cool.
Yeah, super easy.
Um, One of the things that Rolf mentioned before was the Neve summing. He says it's
Yeah.
a game changer. Can you show us that real quick?
Yeah, so if one of the things when it comes to the input section, right? I mentioned the input section earlier. Typically, the input section is all about your unison slot, your mic preamp control, and any record effects, and that is the case on audio tracks. But you might have noticed that on my bus tracks, right? And these include the effects returns as well as the main out, and in this case down here the drum subgroup, right? That I've set up. On bus tracks, in the input slot, you get this choice, right? You get to be able to, and we have two summing models that are available so far: API summing, Neve summing. So yeah, you can choose which one you have here. You'll notice that I've got API on the master, and then I've got these Neves on the effects, which just kind of sweeten them up a little bit. And one of the interesting things about the summing is, and let me show you down here on the drums, right? So summing is trying to make things sound analog, trying to make things sound like a console is super, hip these days, and people are really searching for this because, quite frankly, and with good reason, right? These tools kind of are the secret sauce of making things sound good. This is what what other DAWs have missed. Other DAWs have just gone for functionality without any regard to sonics. We want to take the sonics into account. So when you take your drums and you process them individually and then send them through a subgroup that also is running through the summing amps, right? The summing amplifiers of a given console. That's where you can impart that character of that console. So you've got individual channel strips. So in this case, look, I've got 1084s here. I've got SSL channel strips. So our channel strip plugins handle the individual channels. And then when it comes to buses and the main out, we have these summing algorithms, and they're not just plugins, right? Because what they do is they, of course, incorporate the sonics of the summing amplifier, but they also take into account the pan law and the fader taper. So, for example, when I come over here and I turn off the API summing on my drums, you'll notice that my faders they looked like they moved. They did not
Mhm.
move. Only the fader throw and the fader taper changed because API consoles have a different fader throw. They literally have a different feel when working on them. The top of their scale is +10 instead of +12, and their scale and fader taper and pan law have been taken into account. So yeah, that's what's going on there. You'll note when I go to Neve, the faders take on the Neve taper and profile and pan law. Luckily, in this case, API and Neve and Luna all have the same pan law, so there's no change there just yet. But the fader taper and of course the sonics of it are. So people have been asking us for a long time, why don't when, and a lot of companies do summing plugins, but summing emulating a console is not just a plugin that you slap on a bus or something. It's more tightly integrated, and we needed Luna to be able to do that.
So are you saying that that when you group the drums together and you run them through a Neve, uh, and you turn the summing on, or if you have to turn it on,
Mhm.
is it A, like running the stereo mix through a Neve, or is it B, like running every channel that you're sending to that group through a Neve?
Yeah, that's a common misconception. It is summing. The sound of a console and summing happens on the buses. So anytime that you're summing audio with summing amplifiers, whether it's on buses, aka subgroups, or the main out, that's when summing comes into play. Um, and that's why I pointed out over here on the individual channels, right? On the individual channels, console emulation involves two distinct areas. What's happening on the channel strip, and that's what this plugin does. This plugin emulates the entire channel strip of an SSL console. And so the summing happens when all of that aggregates. In other words, and I know it's a different take than other companies have done, but some companies have a channel plugin, one that goes on each one, and then one that goes on the bus. We have that too, but it's this is your channel plugin. This emulates the channel strip, and then this is your summing um, at
Wow.
the bus level or the main out. So yeah, to answer your question more directly, it's the second thing. it's applied to them as a group.
Wow. That's
So actually, yeah. So in Luna, ironically, the more subgroups you use, like the more of the flavor of the console you're
mhm.
actually, and this would be true in the real world too, right? The more buses you use, the more more subgroups you make, the more of the character and flavor of that console you're incorporating into your mix.
Hmm. Really cool.
Yeah.
Larry Berger wants to know, can the input section recall old settings?
It can, yeah, yep. So one of the cool things about Luna is that it will store custom presets per track. So, and I can demonstrate that here. So, for example, both track one and track two both are getting their input from mic one. So, if I record enable this track, you'll notice that it has built a chain that includes that 1176 that I put in there earlier, right? Let me come over to track two, and you'll notice that when I record enable that, it does not have that, right? And so I might, let's say I choose to put a Fairchild on that one. Now, even though they're both being fed by mic input one, when I record enable track one, it will still recall that 1176. And when I record enable track two, it will recall that Fairchild. So this is really cool in the sense that Luna is saving customized input channel strips per track. So imagine Kevin, you're cutting vocals, and 2 weeks later, you need to punch in a line. All you have to do is plug the mic back into the same mic input and record enable the track, and your settings come back automatically. No
Wow.
logging, no recall sheets, no nothing. It's exactly as you left it. Now, if you
Wow.
don't like that, if you do not like that, we also have a mode that you can use, which is called console tracking mode. I'm not going to demonstrate it because I don't use it very often, but I don't want to. I don't want this session to lose its settings. But console tracking mode allows you to basically turn that off and reuse the same input path for each track. Like so, imagine you're stacking up background vocals and you want to lay down 6 tracks of background vocals, and you don't want the input chain to change per track. You want the input chain to stay no matter which track you record on. You can simply turn on console tracking mode, and Luna will stop remembering unique channels, and instead you reuse the same channel each time. So
Wow.
lots of
That's
flexibility.
pretty,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. We'll take one or two more questions here,
Sure.
and this has
Sure.
been really informative, man. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm
Um,
happy to show people this stuff. It gets me excited even after all the years I've been doing this. It's fun, you know.
Okay, so we've gone the whole way without actually playing audio, but we know it works because we tried it a few minutes ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Dan wants to hear an A/B between the Neve and the API in the box on those
Yeah, you
drums.
know, yeah, who knows? Like this will be if I'll hit play and I'll switch between these two, you know, streaming out to YouTube through their algorithms, you know, we'll see how much of a difference it makes.
Okay.
In fact, if I hold down option, let me actually make them, let me just make them all the same. So I held down option while choosing the API. And so what that'll allow me to do is to, if I continue to hold down option, you can see that
Oh my gosh.
it'll toggle between those two. And it'll remember its settings between those two as well. So this will
Wow.
make it a little bit more, this will make it a little bit easier.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. See where I am. Let's go a little bit further into the song, and let's see.
Every time that you push on a door, you're a witness to feel this so damn good. You want it bad. You want it bad. Once again, you're terrified by what you're wanting. Huh. And it's not so bad when it's all you've had.
You know, in this case, I've only got 4 buses going, and 2 of which are on effect send. So really, all you're hearing is the difference between the main out and the drum sub. But you know, the Neve has a fatter, more extended bottom end, and then you know, when I switch over to the API, things kind of shift up into the middle a little bit more and have a slightly different sort of sheen on top.
Yeah.
You know, this is the kind of thing where, like, you know, you definitely want to get your ears on it yourself and hear it on your
Hmm.
own tracks in your own studio, you know, without going through all of the streaming stuff. But yeah, so that you know that you get an idea of what's going on with that.
Yeah.
I also have
Dan
some
said,
tapes, I've had some tape simulation going on in there, which is stacking up on top of that as well.
that's really cool. Dan said, those input presets are amazing. Time to fire the intern.
Yep, there you go. It's
Yeah.
super handy. It's really handy.
Yeah. Oh man, this has been really, really cool. We'll give the Daniel said big difference on the kick. Yeah, I mean, I heard the difference. The API sounded kind of tight,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
when you went to the low end, I mean, when you went to the Neve, it just kind of fattened the low end a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That I wasn't really set up for a super good, like to really show that if we've got on our YouTube channel, we've got some samples that were specifically prepared, that highlighted a little bit better. But really, the real answer is to just get your hands on it. I mean, Luna is free. You can demo even all the paid options. You can demo everything for 14 days. There's just no substitute for getting your hands on it, loading in your multi-track, right? Load in your song, load in your multi-track, play around with the tape settings. Studio the Oxide you get for free. Studio you can demo, and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And you'll be shocked at how you'll use 20% less processing otherwise. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. It's just like, it just pulls things together so much more. And then you can just
Wow.
sort of, shape
I
it.
believe that. I believe that. I mean, there's DAWs out there that have kind of internal DSP processing built into them. Mixbus is one of those that has kind of built-in processing, mix tape simulation, stuff like that.
Right.
And I can tell a difference when you put stuff in there, and it sounds like Luna's the same way. There is something different. Now, people would argue that it's just ones and zeros. It can't be that much different, but it is.
Yeah.
And just to throw back to aligning the tape machine, sometimes you have to adjust the repro head so that you can tell what you're putting into it. So
Yeah.
this is kind of like this is going to be a little bit of a game changer, I think.
Yeah, we're gathering some steam, and we got some new really cool stuff coming next week that I kind of hinted at. So definitely tune in next week. We're going to be doing some great shows on Tuesday and Wednesday,
Okay.
showing some new stuff for Luna, yeah, so it's good stuff.
One last question, Drew.
Mhm.
Is does UA are you working on some kind of subscription model or anything like that?
People ask about that quite a lot, and obviously we don't talk about anything future facing. As a rule, the company we tend to stay tight lipped. We want to under promise and over deliver. We like to surprise people with stuff. Like, we other than Luna, which we hyped for a few months, that's not our style. We did it a little bit with UAFX, because with COVID and all this stuff. But generally speaking, we like to stay tight lipped. We want people to be able to buy it right away. We want to be able to announce, and then boom, you can get it.
Mhm.
But anyway, so to speak to that directly, everything we've heard from from users is that they're not interested in that. I mean, and maybe that'll change over time. Who knows? But at this point, there's nothing to announce
Yeah.
regarding that. And our general thought is that most people just don't seem to be interested in it. They don't like it. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah.
Are you a
Well,
fan of
I mean,
subscriptions?
I have a subscription site, so I'm a
Right.
big
Oh,
fan of
wait.
it
Yeah.
from
Sure.
that
There you go.
end.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
But as far as like subscribing and getting everything,
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have any of this. I got the stuff that I bought from Slate. I haven't been a subscriber to that.
Yeah.
There are a couple other plugin companies that offer subscription. I haven't, so I guess
Yeah.
that's a
Well, that's
better
what
question.
yeah, that's what I meant was, I didn't mean about, subscribe,
And
the thing about subscribing to like a service like yours is like, you're in a constant ongoing state of providing new and updated information on a week-to-week basis.
mhm.
I was referring to plugins in general, but yeah,
Oh
but
yeah,
who knows, who knows? You never know. Like, we never say never, we never pre-announce, we never, we just like to kind of do our thing and, hang back, take the long view, look at what people are wanting, where people are gravitating towards, but, as of right now, there's nothing, nothing to say about it
yeah,
beyond
that's
that.
cool. Man, this has been really informative. I caught you the other day when Larry Berger had you at the college, and I
Hmm.
learned a little about Luna then. But man, this has been really good for me, and I hope it's been good for my subscribers, and hopefully for YouTube when we
Yeah.
put it on YouTube. So,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
thanks for your time today.
My
Is there
pleasure. My pleasure,
anything that
Kevin.
is there anything that we didn't cover that we should real quick, or
No, I don't think
did we get
so.
it all?
Yeah, I would just encourage people to, if you have any follow-up questions to anything that you've seen on this stream, feel free to come over to, www.uadforum.com. That is our, that's where I hang out and answer people's questions. So if there's any follow-ups that you didn't get answered today, or if this triggers any questions for you, feel free to come over there and post it. Yeah, cool. Thank you, Kevin. So yeah, uadforum.com. And yeah, other than that, I just encourage people to, check out Luna if you can. Put your ears on it. I think you're going to find that it's a pretty compelling way to work, and I think it'll refocus your brain on what matters. I think a lot of times, we're fiddling around with a lot of stuff that if we just had the right tools in our hands, I think we find that things would come together. Mixing should be a joy. It should be a pleasure. It should happen fast. If you track well, the mix should just it should be fun, right? And I think Luna makes
Yeah.
mixing fun, so yeah, definitely check it out.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Drew.
My pleasure, Kevin.
And
Thanks for having me.
maybe we can do this again here the
Yeah,
next few
yeah.
weeks when you do the updates.
Yeah. Let's set another time to come back around, and we'll do another. Maybe you can take the pulse of your user base and your listeners and see what they're interested in, and we can work up another little segment for them, get them the information that they want, and we'll go from there.
Drew, he knows his stuff about Luna, right? So anyway, I'm just honored and thrilled to get to talk to him, and honestly pretty excited about seeing where this Luna thing goes. It's really taken off, and the thought of being able to go back to the old nostalgic days of analog, or having a feel like that, is pretty appealing. So anyway, hey, don't forget, before you go, mixcoach.com/workshop if you want to check out a workshop, and I think you'll love it. So I'll see you next week.